things that a year ago that I had extraordinary anxiety at this time was simply when you look back and we had, as I called it, bushel baskets and bushel baskets and bushel baskets of money coming in because of all the money the federal government printed. And so the goal as a fiscal conservative was simply to not make the same mistakes of the past. Unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember the last time, and there were two people. The people that thought this money would always keep coming and kept spending it, and the people that were fiscally conservative, and obviously the people that in the late 70s and early 80s that thought it would keep coming, had hard times, went broke, went out of business, bad policy decisions for government. People that were fiscally conservative thrived, and so that's been my view as your governor in Nebraska, and so the simple goal was to be able to get as much money back to the people, start working on transformative tax policy, and then number two, following in the 4 words, kids, taxes, agriculture, and values, making sure that we could address some key issues. And certainly when you look at tax policy, most Nebraskans are appalled that we've been taxing our senior citizens on Social Security, and that ends in 24, so grateful for the unicameral in partnership with that. Obviously, our income tax has not been competitive, and that we've been able to speed that up and get that down to 3.99 by 2027. Certainly a step in the right direction. And then obviously the imbalance of how we have funded K-12 on the backs of property taxpayers. And so working with the working group, a couple key things that came out of that. Number one was simply an extraordinary understanding of how underfunded we have been, both from the federal and the state in terms of special education funding, and then also in terms of the injustice. As I've said, all Nebraskans believe our kids are our future, and we never ever want to give up on a kid, and yet the state quit on kids from 180 of the 244 school districts. So out of that was, and the other key piece is we had educators in our working group, and the other key piece was superintendents in that group from large schools, small schools, mid-sized schools said historically we can live within 3% increase in budget every year, irregardless of what inflationary pressures are taking place. So out of that, out of those meetings came forward with the bold initiative that Senator Clemens led with the Education Future Fund, where we would move from being ranked 49th in the country as state funding to move it up and have the state be a partner in education instead of property taxpayers. So if you remember, we passed I'm not good at remembering the numbers of the bills, but the Education Future Fund, $1 billion that the legislature put into the Education Future Fund in partnership, and funding from the state at $250 million a year thereafter. Very, very important piece with so that foundation aid of $1,500 per student. So we had transformative change in the funding of the TIOSA formula so that no school districts left behind. So that $1,500 funding, certainly the goal was that would be dollar for dollar property tax relief and be able to take over from the state funding. I think the other thing that was really, really important on that is the special education funding. And I think that a piece of that is just how grateful Nebraskans across the state are that the state of Nebraska is involved in funding K-12, helping decrease property tax relief, and then having a impact on as I call them, God's blessings that need extra help and care in school. So I think the other piece of the 3% was legislation brought forward by Senator Breezy of a cap that said if a school district is going to spend over 3%, we've called it a soft cap, that the school districts 70 to 75%, depending on the number of school board members, could vote to override that. So those would be the highlights, and I guess what I think is really, really important is it took extraordinary partnership with the legislature. It took extraordinary teamwork with everybody throughout to be able to make this historic funding for education, and really, really proud of that. That is the thing we all agree on. Our kids are our future, and having a tremendous education is really, really important. And I believe that it's important for the state to play a more active role. Obviously, the other piece that was a big impact for property tax relief certainly doesn't solve it all, but also moving the community colleges being funded instead of local taxing authorities, that the state funds the community colleges, and I think that number saves us about 5 to 6% on property taxes. So it was really awesome to work with a roundtable group, identify the needs, and come to these solutions. And I think what's really important in the end is that the entire intent of our office and everybody in the legislature was to change funding from the state, partner with education, but to have significant property tax relief. In the end, where we're at today, that as all the numbers have come in with the SPED education, the total funding from the state is just a couple clicks over $324 million. And that would be in foundation aid and special education funding. There have been some that says that's not sustainable. Obviously, we've worked very, very hard on not putting programs together that's not going to stand the test of time and the sustainability of it. The state will continue to fund $250 million of it. I think right now the number is somewhere around $20 to $25 million of income funds off of those that will also help with the funds. So we're off to a great start there, and with the revenues and the economy, very, very, very strong, very, very strong position. So, you know, in the end, it's a great celebration to be here, and I'm grateful for the guests that I'll introduce in a little bit to be here to celebrate this historic transformative initiative that was put forth. I think that it's really important for everybody to understand that we're in partnership. The state is in partnership with our school districts, and I understand it takes, when you have transformative policy, it takes time to develop trust and to develop understanding. And I would say that I will take responsibility in that I think that a number of districts maybe didn't have the confidence of the special education funding. The special education funding will be arriving at districts in starting this month through June. I'm hopeful that as that takes place, there will be, it'll allow us to have better results than what we had here in the first year. Kind of the data points are pretty simple. The data points out of 244 school districts, we're here celebrating 92 districts will collect less property tax in '24 than they did before this legislation. I think that 100 out of the 244 school districts, 188 of the 244 districts overread the soft cap, overrode the soft cap. So I think that those are things that are really important. I guess I will use an example at home. When we put forth a new initiative, it takes a heck of a lot of work to get it executed. We have to do better in communication and working so that there's the trust that the SPED money's coming, there's the understanding, and that we truly, truly have transformative property tax relief for the extra funding that comes from the state. So I'm very positive where we're at. I'm excited about the future. I'm excited that we can improve execution and we can keep focused on making sure that the state of Nebraska is playing a huge role in the funding of our kids' education, and that we, in the end, give significant property tax relief to Nebraskans. Because the one thing about property taxes today that's different than 20 years ago or 10 years ago, property taxes have gotten so out of whack that it's affecting people in poverty, even though they don't own any property. Still has an incredible impact on their rent. We have countless Nebraskans who have worked their whole life to pay for their homes and have them paid for living on a fixed income and property taxes. So we have to fix that. We have to have some transformative, bold, courageous moves to be able to take that on and still do a great job of educating our children. So I want to thank a couple fiscal leaders in our Nebraska education system, and first introduce Superintendent Daren Hatch from Elwood, and grateful for your work and grateful for you being here, Daren. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you again, Governor Pillen, for the opportunity to be here today. The Governor's decision to invest in the funding of K-12 schools during last year's legislative session is unprecedented and made a financial impact on Elwood Public School. Elwood is a small, rural farm community located in south-central Nebraska with a population of approximately 700. The educational system in Elwood is the heart of our small community, educating the minds of the next generation and laying the foundation for a prosperous future. Historically, Elwood Public Schools has always been an unequalized district. This means that the school district has received a minimum amount of financial assistance from the state of Nebraska. The majority, if not all of the funding, has had to be provided by local property taxes. Budgetary precision has been a defining characteristic of the Elwood Board of Education. They consistently look for ways to provide a high-quality education for the students they serve, and at the same time work to ensure that funds are allocated and spent in a fiscally responsible manner. Strong partnerships with nearby districts and the local educational service unit have allowed Elwood to reduce the cost of services, save money on professional development for staff, sustain a reliable technology infrastructure, share the cost of school psychologist services, and provide unique opportunities for all students. The Governor's vision to provide the new foundation aid and a fully funded special education reimbursement rate provided the Elwood Public School Board a wonderful opportunity because the educational funding support came to our district at a unique time where it made financial sense for the Board of Education to reduce property taxes, thus providing some financial relief to our patrons in these uncertain economic times. The families in the Elwood community are working hard, extremely hard, to make ends meet. The past few years have been economically and emotionally difficult and stressful for both parents and students. The goal of our board was to support these families by reducing the financial burden. Our district is thankful for the Governor's vision and the increased state funding. It has certainly provided some financial relief in rural Nebraska. By reducing the financial burden on our local patrons, we are investing not only in the present, but also in the future success of our children. Our district is certain that the Governor and the legislature will continue to work to find ways to continue to provide this funding for every district in the state of Nebraska and foster an educational environment that empowers all students to reach their full potential. Thank you. I'll turn it back to Governor Pillen.
Well, thank you very much, Daren. Appreciate your work. And next, I'd like to introduce the Norris Superintendent, Dr. Brian Maschmann. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you being here.
I want to start off with some Norris demographics. Norris is a school district of about 2,500 students, 230 staff, which includes 168 teachers. The school district is just south of Lincoln, about 20 miles, and down 68th Street, right in the middle of a cornfield. The school district covers 230 square miles and 9 communities. The campus sits on 270 acres with another 111 acres for agricultural education learning labs. On an average day, we bus around 1,700 students on 30 bus routes. The community of Hickman is considered the fastest growing community in Nebraska, which will impact Norris with increased enrollment in the upcoming years. So our Norris budget in 2023, Norris School District received $5.2 million in foundation aid. Last year, it was about $4.3 million in state aid. And we anticipate an additional $1.1 million in special education funds due to the 80% funding for special education from the state. With the additional funding, the Board of Education made a decision to lower property taxes by $786,000. This decision was based on the commitment from the state of Nebraska and the work of Department of Education with additional funding for public education. We have a sign in our boardroom that says, "Is it good for kids?" And what has happened, it is good for kids. It's good for taxpayers and it's good for kids. Norris will continue to work hard to stay as one of the lowest per pupil spending schools in the state of Nebraska. Governor, thank you.
Well, here's one of the cool things about Nebraska, Brian. There's so much good economic activity going on. There's a lot of people claiming that they have the fastest growing community or school district, so that's a really good thing. Lastly, I'd like to introduce the Commissioner of Education, Dr. Brian Maher. Thank you for being here, Brian. Appreciate it.
The Nebraska Department of Education enjoys our partnership with Governor Pillen and with local school leaders. We have very much dug in to develop that relationship, build that relationship, and we'd like to thank the governor for everything he's done in general for Nebraska and specifically for all children attending schools in Nebraska. On behalf of the Nebraska Department of Education, I want to thank the state senators and the governor for our recent legislation that increased the investment from our state to our schools. This is an investment in our children and an investment in our future. I also want to thank the tireless efforts by local elected school board members. In every school district across Nebraska, community members volunteer their time and talents to serve on their local school boards. They are tasked with balancing the needs of their schools with the financial realities of the communities where they live. In my time as a local school superintendent, leading those budget discussions could become part of the hardest work that we had to do the entire year. This is the first year with the new state investments, and we expect these investments will have an even greater impact for districts in the years to come, as the governor outlined earlier. Finally, I want to join the governor in applauding the work of the school districts showcased here today and others around the state as great examples of the balancing act taking place throughout the state to make sure that our students have the best possible education no matter where they live. Again, Governor, thank you.
We'll finish up here and then take questions, but I think that, it's a couple things that are really important that we're all on the same page is for K-12 education to have confidence in the state of Nebraska. Have confidence and trust that the SPED formula and sustainability of what we've done works. It's incredibly important for the long-term success of the state of Nebraska that we have transformative tax policy change. We have to be successful. Historically, there was a run at it in 1972. It wasn't successful. Run at it in 1991 with the creation of the TIOSA. It wasn't successful. We've made a transformative change this past year. We have to do better. The hardcore reality is in the great big picture, we're bringing $324 million of state aid, and yet overall our property taxes went up $85 million. That won't work, continue, and I think that, I have confidence that as we work and build trust that those overrides of the 3% cap will be the exception to the rule, which was the intent of everybody in the legislature. I think that the other thing that is really, really important and nobody leaves is my life is simple. I'm your governor for 4 words: kids, taxes, agriculture, and values. Our kids are going to get the best quality education. We have to be focused on outcomes. We have to be focused on never giving up on any one kid, anywhere, anytime, any place. So it's really important that we work hard building our partnership between the state and all of our schools. And it's really, really important. The most important elected position, in my humble opinion, is the school boards across the state. It's really important to all the school board members that they understand and have confidence and trust that the state's there, and that we deliver extraordinary property tax relief for all of our friends and neighbors that we represent. I think that the thing that's impressive about last session and expectation of this session is that all of us work together. All of us work together for the greater good of the state of Nebraska. And as I will continue to say, together we can, and together we will, and together we win for the state of Nebraska. So I'm grateful for everybody being here, and be open to any questions.
Governor, did you say 144 or 188 districts had overridden the 3%?
I'm going to look. So we had 188 of the 244 school districts override the cap.
So that's more than 70% who
so it's
defied
important
what the superintendent
so it's
said.
important so that we get this. So that would have been 23% stayed under the cap. Okay, number one. But I also said that 92 of the 244 districts will collect less property tax in 2024. Even though the school board would have voted to override the cap, they collected less.
So
Sense?
what's your message to the vast majority of districts that overrode the cap?
Yeah, well, the message is really simple. The intent of my office and the intent in our partnership with everybody in the legislature would be that overriding the 3% cap would be the exception to the rule. We didn't dream that number up. We got that number from superintendents that represented all school districts in our working group. That's where that number came from. They said we have functioned and operated for years and years at 3%. So that's the message, clear and simple. That's the expectation.
So what are the consequences? Are you going to try again to tighten that cap?
Well, I think that my message is really, really clear. I think that I'll take some of the responsibility. We could have worked harder getting the message out and understanding. We sometimes think that our messaging is perfect and that I communicate perfect, which obviously I don't, and understanding and trust. So there are a number of superintendents that convinced their boards to vote with them because they didn't have the confidence in the SPED money coming. Well, the SPED money's there. The SPED money's in the bank, and they'll be getting it in December through June. And so, we can't, yesterday's history, but we're working hard for the future. And, if we can't get that corrected, I'll be an advocate for a hard cap. But I'd like to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And the other message is simple. Not only in education, but county government, city government, everywhere, we have to stop spending money. If the solution, we have to become fiscal conservatives. If the solution is more people and more money, we're not going to have a great place to live. We have to become fiscal conservatives at everywhere. And education is a piece of that where, we have a committee, 12-member committee of superintendents that we call it Operation Clean the Closet Out because every superintendent has told me countless times that we have a number of mandates that are box checkers that do nothing for educating our children, but increase the cost of education. So there's a lot of work that we can do together to make sure that our dollars are being utilized for quality education.
So, Governor, are you
Yeah, obviously there's separation of powers we have the executive branch and we have the unicameral, and my intent would be to work together so my intent would not be to go there this year, but if we have to get the override be an exception to the rule. Martha?
Governor, the override is a different thing than whether school districts actually reduce their property taxes. There are a number of districts that increased their property taxes but did not do the override. Omaha Public Schools is one, $30 million increase, no override. But the two districts you have featured here did approve an override. Can you comment on this?
Yeah, well, I think that I'm pointing out both, right? So I'm pointing out both. We have 188 of the 244 districts that voted the override of the budget cap. The intent is just simply say, look, we have confidence the state of Nebraska is there, that we have a sustainable program, and that there is no need to vote for the override, and that we don't do Washington math. We do direct math and make sure that we are not that the money that's coming from the state, that it's really close to dollar for dollar property tax relief, and that we're not taking advantage of opportunities to tax our neighbors more.
So you talk about dollar for dollar property tax relief, and the state put in over 300 million,
324 to be exact.
and yet property taxes statewide increased 85 million.
Yes.
So
It's unacceptable. That trend cannot
just fail.
Year one is not where we wanted to be. We had a number of districts that operated really well, and I think we could, I could get you the data of exactly where all that came, but year one was not the success that we wanted it to be. Andrew?
Superintendent, I guess what made you decide to trust the state was going to come through with this funding and you can come?
I think for Elwood, it was certainly board-led. We're in a good, strong financial position right now, and our board was very, very interested in using the state dollars to replace some of our property tax dollars. Elwood Public Schools with the foundation aid and the special ed reimbursement, it was in the $400,000 range. Oh yeah, that was the year before. We would have gotten, I believe it was 42,000 from the state of Nebraska. So also the special ed rate went from 42 cents on the dollar to 80 cents on the dollar. So it's almost twice as much. So our total increase was over 400,000. Correct, that is correct. We cut about 249,000, almost right at 250,000. We did not. We have to, allow for staff increases. The other thing is you have to understand that not only did we cut property taxes, but we didn't ask for any new ones. So if you add in what we would have normally asked and what we cut, it's a little bit better. We could have asked 116,000 without going to a countywide meeting. So we didn't ask for that, and we cut 250,000. Yes, sir.
Did your actual spending go down in Elwood?
Our spending will stay pretty stable. Of course, we have staff salary increases. Anybody that's paid an electric bill or natural gas bill knows that they're not getting cheaper. So we'll try to keep it down as much as possible. Well, this year it'll go up a little bit just because of staff increase prices. We didn't add any new staff, just the normal raises.
We're trusting what the governor's doing. When he first started, he came to a lot of the meetings that superintendents around the area were at. We've had a lot of conversations. He's been very open with the site and the vision of what he wanted to do. The funding, it had to be changed. And I believe we're moving in the right direction. And the biggest thing that I feel the governor did was he started developing relations with the school districts and kind of understanding what we were having to face and working with us. So I think it was the communication and the relationship side of the governor working with the school districts.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'll ask you this. I mean, but there is a couple of petitions out there that would change our tax system completely to an epic tax and remove all property taxes. I mean, how much did that play into your mind as to what you were going to do with how you, I guess, gain the trust of property tax?
I would say when I was building the budget, and I knew what I had to have, building it through from February on, and working and listening to how state aid was going to transfer over to foundation aid, I was able to see that by going to foundation aid, that was going to help the Norris district by a little bit less than $1 million. And knowing that we get 42% for special education, I knew that would give us another 1.1 million. Now, with the other bills or things that are coming through, I had to focus on this year. And from what the governor has said, as we move forward, this is how it's going to be: $1,500 per student, 80% for special education. With that, that's what I'm building my budget on, based on what the governor has told us. Yes. No, we're not. And that goes on for salaries, for benefits. When we're working with a school district that has 30 bus routes and all of the transportation costs, we have fuel costs, there's a lot of inflation going on that school districts have to take care of. And so the dollar for dollar, we can't do that because of the additional costs that it does take to manage our school district. The growth, yes, the growth in our district.
So I guess what do you tell property taxpayers, you know, that the relief will come, or is the relief is here, or is this all the relief they can expect?
So our levy last year was $1.15, and we were able to take it down to 93 cents. And so by showing our taxpayers that we weren't going to maintain, but we were going to reduce it, and talking about the ability to reduce the taxes of $700,000, that was the first step. As we look into the future, and we look at our budget, and we look at our growth, we'll be able to, I'm very positive that we'll be able to maintain that amount, but it all depends on the inflation, or also some of our things that we have to pay for transportation, for supplies. Yes?
Is the 3% cap a reasonable cap in your estimation? And what would you say to the 188 districts that overrode the cap?
What I would say is every school district is different. Financially, where they're located, their demographics. So for me to answer for the other school districts, I can't do that. For Norris School District, I would say that we can live inside it.
Is that in part because your valuation is growing, you're a growing district?
Our valuation is growing, yes.
Pretty unique in that respect.
For Norris, we've had a positive growth in valuation for for the last 14 years that I've been here. Now, it has not ever been this high, but when we do have growth, we try to maintain a budget, and we're not trying to overburden our taxpayers.
And Governor, I have a question. I guess, what's your message to property tax?
Well, I think the message to the property taxpayers, our work's just begun. Where we're at in property tax payments is not acceptable. And we have to have transformative change, started with school funding, and we need to be able to do more. We need to have the state play a bigger role in funding K-12 education. We have to have transformative, we have to cut significant dollars from our property tax payments. That's my message. That's what we're committed to doing. We're going to work day and night to get it done, and we're going to work very, very hard with our partners in the legislature to get that done this session. And however long it takes, that's what we'll do.
Do you see that with working on the valuation side and the cap side, or is there additional funding that may be available that you can put towards property?
We're not going to eliminate any tool in the toolbox. Without a shadow of a doubt, property taxes are so out of whack that you don't even need to own property in the state of Nebraska, and we have to fix it. That's the most common sense approach to get it done, and there's a lot of possibilities with that. Obviously, cap's another conversation because spending. I've asked this question a gazillion times across the state of Nebraska with groups. Is anybody in favor of inheritance tax? Unanimous. Nobody is, except, as I say, except for our friends and neighbors we elect to run county government. They get involved, and all of a sudden they got to live with that, quote, slush fund, because that's what the inheritance tax is. It's extra pillowcase money that we've got to start having enough discipline to be able to run our county government without it. And so we have to become more fiscally responsible everywhere. We're working very hard to change that at the state, and incredibly proud of the work that we're getting done, and proof will be in the pudding there. But it's just really important that we have to become competitive. We can't say yes to everything. We have to understand who we are and spend money for the value that really matters. We can, and we have to look at all the processes of what we do, whether it's in state government, county government, city government, and education. We can't keep doing things the same way, and that's why we have a committee of 12 superintendents working on Operation Clean the Closets Out. It's absurd that we're doing some things, and start understanding what it costs to put an hour of training on that somebody has an idea that would be wonderful. Well, it'd be really good to know what kind of return on investment that is. So we have a lot of work to do. We're not going to give up, and we're going to stay at it hard. Martha? Yeah, well, I'm always one that believes in setting goals and not setting goals that everybody can attain on the first time out. If you set a goal that everybody attains on the first time out, what the heck is that? That's how you play losing ball. So, yeah, realistically, my hope was to be 97% of that, right? Because that's what we all agreed to. That's what we all agreed to, and with the exception of the rule. If a district's growing, we all agreed we'd figure it out, and that we've historically run our K-12 with 3% increases, irregardless of what outside activities have happened. So we'll keep working together, and once we have more trust and relationships and confidence, I'm confident that we can get there. We're going to work hard together with the folks behind me to make sure that we're not doing silly things that do nothing but add cost to educating our children and have no impact on the outcome. We have countless examples of that across government. Paul? I didn't read it, but we're very, very confident. Our teams worked very, very hard on the sustainability of the foundation aid and the Education Future Fund and the $250 million that will be committed year after year. We have a tremendous economy, and we have tremendous strength, and we have money resources throughout state government that we're finding in a lot of places. And so I disagree with that concept. The sustainability of this program for K-12 education will go on a long way, not a shadow of a doubt.
So, I guess I have two questions there. Do you believe it's going to run out of money?
No, it's sustainable. For the foreseeable future, it's sustainable.
But if you need the money, you're going to get it from budget cuts elsewhere.
We have great confidence with the program we have in place, with the funding of K-12 of what we've committed, where others have said it's not sustainable. They're not seeing the numbers I'm seeing, I can assure you that. Andrew?
You talked about trust being a part of this whole relationship. I mean, how much trust have you lost in the majority of schools?
You know, I've learned in my lifetime, if things don't quite go the way you want it, that you work harder to get on the same page. And so, I just have to work harder. Our team has to work harder. We have to make sure that we're a part of the solution, and we are going to deliver property tax reform to the state of Nebraska. We're going to have our kids have a extraordinary quality education. We're going to make sure no kids left behind. But the solution isn't more money and more people at every turn. We have to have an attitudinal change, and I'm going to work hard to help have that. Yes. I'm sorry, say that again. Yeah, I think in the end, if we hadn't had transformative education funding, property taxes would have gone up $400 million. So I think that's a step in the right direction. So if there's a positive message, we've made a difference in stopping growth of property tax, but we have to cut it. We're working with a working group, just like we did with education, and we're unanimous. We have to cut property taxes significantly, and that's with a B in it, in dollars. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to figure out the way, and all hands are on deck.
Was the $85 million increase in property taxes within schools alone?
That would have been K-12 education. Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for being here today. We're grateful for that, and want to thank Chad and Brian for being here. We're grateful, and I guess let me close on together we can, together we will. So thank you. Have a great Advent season. Thank you.